Hi, I'm Shelley Wood, and this is my tiny sewing room where I make doll clothes sewing videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make this sweet little bolero jacket, which should fit 7-inch dolls like Lottie dolls. But before we begin this sewing project, please go to my website shelleywood.com to download and print this free PDF sewing pattern. Use the pattern to cut out all the pieces shown, plus the 2 sleeves. Lay one bodice back on top of another, keeping right sides together so the pretty sides touch. Sew around the neckline, clip the neckline. I'm using Fiskars Stitchers mini scissors for this. And if you'd like to get a pair of these because they're fantastic for just this type of project, look in the description below my video. Invert the bodice back and press. So here I am inverting my bodice back now that I've clipped it. Set this aside for a moment. Lay one bolero bodice front on top of another, keeping right sides together again. Sew around the neckline, front closure area, and the bottom, so it will look like this. Do this for both your fronts. Once again, I'm using those Fiskars Stitchers minis to clip each corner and all around the seams I've made. And once again, I really like my little Fiskars scissors. These teeny tiny guys are just perfect for something so small. If you haven't got yourself a set of these and you do make doll clothes, I highly recommend them. And once again, there's a link to them in the description below. Invert both fronts. Now, I like to use a chopstick to help me invert tiny pieces like this. So you'll see me do that in just a second. There's my chopstick. I give it a little twist. Okay, and then I invert this one, give it a little twist with the chopstick. Press each of your bolero front pieces. Lay one front on top of the bolero's back, keeping right sides together. Stitch across the shoulder area. I'm using a back stitch here. If you need help with a back stitch, I do have a tutorial for that. Just look in the description under this video on YouTube for that tutorial link. Now follow suit with the other bolero front. Next, lay the bolero flat like this and press the shoulder seams to flatten them out. Okay, set the bolero aside for a minute and let's work with its sleeves. At the bottom of each sleeve, create a hem by folding once and then a second time, and you'll find that there are lines on the pattern to mark kind of as a guide. Okay, so here's a sleeve. I'm going to fold once. Then I fold a second time. This was a sleeve for a different jacket. But the idea is the same. You just use your pattern like that to help you guide where you do those folds. Whip stitch along the bottom of the fold. If you need help with the whip stitch, once again, there's a tutorial in the link that you'll find in the description below. Of course, you could just use a sewing machine to sew the hem too. Do this for both sleeves. Now let's get our bodice piece and lay the sleeve's rounded edge alongside the bodice's armhole area. Back stitch from the underarm to just shy of the shoulder seam. Tie a knot, then wrap the sleeve around to the other underarm area like you see me doing right here. So here's my bodice with the sleeve partly attached. Okay, and when I say partly attached, we stopped sewing just before we got to the shoulder seam. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the sleeve around so that the curved area of the top of the sleeve matches the curve of the underarm area right there. And I'm going to start sewing here. Just showing you again to make sure you see how we did that wrap around. And you're going to insert your needle right here and then continue to back stitch right along that edge. Stitch from the underarm on this side to just shy of the shoulder seam again. Now there should be a slight gap at the top of your sleeve. You want that. Gather the top of the sleeve until it matches the shoulder seam area just perfectly. Then stitch the top of the sleeve to the shoulder. Now your sleeve should look like this. Attach both sleeves following these directions. Turn the bolero so it's right side up. Fold one sleeve in half like you see here. Stitch from the sleeve's hem to the underarm area and then tie your knot. Do not stitch the side seam at all just yet. Fold the other sleeve in half and once again stitch it from hem to underarm as well. At the bottom of the bolero's back, fold the fabric inside itself like you see me doing right here. So I have this area at the bottom of the back that is just raw fabric right there. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of fold these inside that hole in between, that area in between the lining and the outer fabric of the bolero. I like to use straight pins to kind of hold this in place while I stitch. And you can kind of see what I'm doing there. Sort of looks like a puppet mouth the way that you insert the fabric inside. Pin it in place. Whip stitch to close off this opening. That's what I'm doing here. Now you need to finish those side seams. I used a back stitch for this. Back stitch down both sides of the bolero. Clip the underarm area on both sides as well. Okay, so here's my Fisker Stitchers, the little mini scissors. I give it a clip on each side of that seam. And then I begin to invert the bolero, and it helps to use the blunt end of your chopstick for this. Okay, so invert the bolero, and now you're ready to try it on a doll. For more free printable PDF sewing patterns, including the purse pattern and the dress patterns for Lottie, please remember to visit my website, ShellyWood.com.
What if there was an easy way to take a big doll pattern and resize it to fit a little doll, or vice versa? I'm Shelly Wood, the doll clothing designer, and in my pattern alteration class, I'm going to share with you my resizing formula.
Pattern alteration is when you take a pattern that you already own and you make changes to it. Let's say a dress doesn't fit your doll quite right. I'll show you how to create a gusset to extend the dress's bodice.
Along the same lines, I'll show you how to use a doll's body measurements to lengthen and shorten shirt sleeves, and to recreate the pants patterns you already own so they will fit dolls of different shapes and sizes. Following my instructions, you'll learn how to reshape dresses and skirts, making them fuller or less full depending on the look you're going for. With this collection of more than 40 videos, you'll use my measurement guide and dozens of tips and tricks to create a full wardrobe for the doll or dolls of your choice. I invite you to join me. We are going to have so much fun.